What if you could take that risk, make that change, reach that goal, live your best life? Welcome to another episode of the What If You Could podcast, where we get together with amazing experts and everyday people who share challenges, encourage healing, and explore the possibilities that life has to offer. I'm your host, Gary Scott, and I'm excited that you're along for the ride. Hey, everybody, welcome to another episode of the What If You Could podcast. And my friend, who basically I could have written his bio for him and he could have written it for me because we shared a lot of similar experiences. I'm sure a lot of you guys have too, is DK Kang. Hello, DK.
Hi.
Well, welcome to the What If You Could podcast. I'm going to fire off your bio. It's short and sweet, and then we're going to jump in the pool. So, guys, we have DK Kang. He's the author of Mindset Metamorphosis. He's also a life learner and wellness advocate who helps people build strength physically, mentally, and spiritually through discipline and daily action. After walking through his wife's cancer battle, job loss, and financial hardship, DK now shares practical tools for turning setbacks into fuel for health, healing, and personal growth. Yeah, that's all good stuff, man.
Wow.
From triumph to what is it? Tragedy to triumph, right? Is that?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Well, DK, I can't wait to jump in this. Like I said, God, I've walked a mile in your moccasins, but we are the What If You Could podcast. So, like I mentioned, and I asked all my guests, DK, what is your what if you could?
Man, there's so many, I feel like. But I feel like um I think one, what if I could go back in time and I would love to learn from my dad, his recipes. Um Yeah, my dad owned a restaurant, and my dad always, I mean, owning a restaurant, work long days, long weeks, and that's something that like him and I really connected was through food. Like whatever he made, I always just ate it and didn't complain, and I think he really enjoyed that. I mean, him and I didn't really talk much, but I think that's something that we connected. And I never got a chance to learn his recipes that he was serving at the restaurant for his customers. And so I think that's one thing that, what if I could have went back in time and actually just sat by my dad and watched him and learn all the recipes. Yeah.
I love that, brother. That's great. And I love restaurants. I've worked in restaurants for many years. I've gotten fired from everyone I've worked in because I'm a horrible waiter. But I know that you don't really own a restaurant, right? Restaurants own you
Exactly. Yeah.
because especially if a small family restaurant, I mean, it's your life, it's your
It is.
lifeblood. And I can imagine your father really poured his love and his soul into his food. But you have a cookbook, right? Don't you have the Kimchi cookbook?
Yeah, I do. Yeah. Yeah.
And is that from his recipes, or you just like kimchi, which almost nobody does? No, I'm kidding.
No, for me,
I love kimchi.
I just absolutely love kimchi.
Yeah.
So yeah, a little quick story on that. It kind of came about. So I was born and raised in Missouri. I moved to Texas in 2016, and so my mom and my dad always like made kimchi because of course they had a restaurant. It was a Chinese Korean restaurant, and so I always had kimchi breakfast, lunch, and dinner growing up being in a Korean household. And then when I moved to Texas, I would buy kimchi, but it just didn't taste good, and it was in like plastic containers. So then I went back to Missouri to learn like how my mom made kimchi from scratch. And so, I learned that and then came back to Texas, made my own. I started bringing it to work, and my coworkers would ask me like, "Hey, like, what is that? Can I try some?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure. It's kimchi." And then, they didn't know what it was at the time. And so they're like, "Oh, this is really good." And then that one person started talking to other people and saying, "Hey, can we buy a jar from you?" Then my workplace just kind of spread saying, "Oh, can we buy some kimchi?" And I was like, "I'm not really selling it." Well, like, okay, here, here's a jar. But a question always came up was, well, what do I do with kimchi? How do I use it? And then so I was like, oh, well, you could use it in pretty much any dish you want. Just, you could throw it in like spaghettis, your tacos, your burgers, whatever, your salads. And that's kind of how the kimchi cookbook kind of came about, was integrating kimchi into different dishes, but also like the health benefit. I explained like the health benefits of like the probiotics and how like your gut health is like your immune system. And so for me, it was like more of a passion project just to help people like, hey, start throwing kimchi into your own dishes to incorporate it so you can get that probiotics in, get that fiber in, and just start, eating a little bit healthier. So that's kind of how the cookbook kind of came about. So nothing to do with my,
That's awesome.
yeah, nothing to do with my dad's.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. My son was stationed in Korea. He's in the Air Force and he was stationed in Korea and he never took to the kimchi. But my wife and I are big gut health people
Yeah.
sauerkraut,
Yep.
pickled things. People don't realize kimchi is one of the healthiest things you could throw
Yep.
into your stomach because it really helps the all re-energize, the proper nutrients and probiotics that your stomach needs.
Yeah.
Um, but I've never thought of putting it on, spaghetti and tacos. I mean, I eat it right out of the jar, right?
I mean,
But
you
I
you
guess it's like
yeah,
sauerkraut. You put
yeah,
sauerkraut on a bunch of shit, right?
yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, I'm gonna have to pick that up and thumb through that because we do eat kimchi, and it really is one of the healthiest things you can eat in your body. And so, I mean, that incorporates your, physically, mentally, spiritually kind of body work. I mean,
Yeah.
is your wife okay? Your wife's here? She
Uh,
made
yeah,
it through the journey of her cancer?
yeah. So for those that don't know my story, my wife was diagnosed with breast cancer in 2024. This was like January 2024. She starts treatment February of 2024. I read this book called The Breast Cancer Husband, and they said pretty much be at your wife's side. And, and then at the tail end, it says, hey, let your employer know what's going on about your wife's situation, wife's diagnosis, but, you know, that just, hey, that you need a flexible work schedule. So I was kind of reluctant. I told my employer, like, hey, my wife has breast cancer and work weekends. I'll make up my time, but I just need to be at all our appointments. They said, yeah, that's fine. This was like February 1st when I told them. And then a week after that, after I disclosed that my wife had breast cancer and for a flexible work schedule, they laid me off. And so, it's when you hear the word cancer, it's kind of like your world is turned upside down, and then on top of that, with a job loss, your world is really turned upside down. And so my wife went through a year long of treatments of chemotherapy, radiation, surgery, target drugs, so she is cancer free as of February 2025, but because her cancer was so aggressive, she has to be on surveillance for the next 2 years. So we're still saying until 2027, we'll be still seeing the oncologists, seeing doctors, things like that. But during this time, because I was laid off, and I'm applying for jobs, but there was a point where I was journaling and because I'm stressed, overly stressed, I'm overwhelmed, I'm feeling stuck because a lot of this stuff is out of my control with cancer, job loss. And as I'm journaling, I'm just like writing my thoughts down. And I was like, I was just thinking in my head, I'm like, I'm pretty sure I'm not the only one that's stressed out there, that's overwhelmed with, life situations or feeling stuck. So that transitioned into writing a book, not only for myself to help me, but I wanted to help others out there because cancer is so prevalent nowadays. I mean, cancer is not, it's not a genetic disease no more these days. It's maybe 5%. 95% of it, of cancer disease diagnosis, is lifestyle. That's from stress, that's from nutrition, that's from your environment. And so for me, I wanted to help people kind of get unstuck and kind of deal with their stress and kind of pe help people not feel overwhelmed that they can do something. And something that when I did lose my job that night, I came home. Faith is a big part of my wife and I's life. And I came home that night. We prayed, but we didn't ask the question, why is this happening to us? Why does my wife get cancer? Why do I lose my job all in like within, a month of each other? So instead of asking that, we reframed it to, and I talk about this in my book about reframing. We reframed it to, why not us, God? And a follow-up question came up was, well, why not us, but who can we help down the line or down in the future that may be going through something like this? And so, for us, we just had to reframe and just like our mindset, the way we were thinking, because we could have went down this spiral of like, oh, the world is against us and you know, blame everybody. But we took ownership of our own selves, our own lives, our own, you know, cancer diagnosis. We started reading books, and I talk about a fixed mindset versus a growth mindset in my book as well. Like a fixed mindset is it's like, oh well, that's all there is to learn, or and that's kind of it. While a growth mindset is like continuing learning. And so we read cancer books. Like, I mean, we read, I don't know, maybe like 15, 20 cancer books. We read like 15, 20 nutrition books and how they help cancer. A book that we read was Chris Beat Cancer. Great resource. I don't, if you don't know his story, he was like this young 26-year-old, got stage 3 colon cancer. Doctors gave him 6 months to live. He actually just did the surgery and didn't do the chemo and then just changed his nutrition. And I mean, he's still alive today and advocating for, people changing their diet for cancer. And so, yeah, I mean, and there's other books that we read but yeah, we took it upon ourselves and we took ownership of it, saying, what can we do to help heal the process with cancer? And so, I talk about that in my Mindset Metamorphosis book. And there's so much that I put in there because I was writing it during my wife's cancer treatments, and yeah, I just kind of almost like kind of threw up on it, like, "Wah," I just kind of just vomited everything and just kind of written down. And so that's kind of where my story kind of started with that book. Yeah.
There's so much to unravel there. Um, I lost my first wife to cancer in 2014. Same thing. You hear the C word and it just stops your whole life. And then, of course, the business goes to crap because we were business partners and my only focus was her getting better. So business can go whatever. So yeah, it really, cancer just doesn't just destroy the person. It destroys the family. It destroys finances. It destroys families. It really is an all-encompassing, really sucky thing. Um, I'm glad that your wife is NED. Um, I ended up getting cancer myself, and it was stress related. Completely, I'm totally healthy. I should have never gotten cancer. It's completely stress related. But I'm NED right now, so I get that. But some of the things that you talked about the reframing victimhood. We love to be victims nowadays, man. Everybody's a freaking victim. But that fixed mindset that you talked about, it's very tough when you have that kind of fear of, is my wife going to be okay? How am I going to make a living? Maybe I lost my insurance when I got laid off. To not have a fixed mindset, right? I mean, it's hard not to go down that rabbit hole of just that sort of fear and not wanting to look out. So how'd you overcome that? How'd you guys step back and go, hey man, we can play victims or we can reframe this. We could look in a different direction. How did you guys do that?
And it was honestly it was tough. It was hard, to be honest. I mean, and we're human, and like we're not perfect, and we don't always think that, but I mean we just had to take it day by day, and there's days that were tough. I mean, we still have days that are tough. Like you're talking about cancer and finances, right? There was a point where, because I got laid off, I didn't have health insurance, and my wife was already quit her job at this point too. And my wife started chemo, and she did one chemo treatment without health insurance was $80,000, and she had to do 12 plus MRIs plus radiation plus surgery. Like our entire 1 year of medical bills would have been over $1 million probably. I guarantee it. And so yeah, I mean what you say about finances, and yeah, there were days where I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to pay rent. But our church community and our family and different friends, like they all like pitched in, and they supported us. And we just randomly got like the whole month's rent, and then people gave us like gift cards for groceries to go buy some groceries. And so for me, I'm very grateful for that. And there's a for me there's a scripture that comes to mind is I think it's in Philippians. It says I can do all things through him who gives me strength, which is God or Christ. And so for me, for us, we just had to rely on God. And that's part of our faith because there was so many unknowns that we just didn't know. Like, I mean, luckily we got Cobra insurance and it kicked in, and yeah, Cobra is expensive, but not $80,000 worth, So, um, but yeah, I mean, like we just had to rely on like God's wisdom, God's strength. And so, and as well as like the community, like our church community, our friends, our family. I mean, yeah, like I said, there were tough days. I'm not gonna say it was a walk in the park. It was not. I mean, we're still trying to recover. Because so I didn't have a job from February 2024 to December of 2024. So we had no income for like 9, 10 months. And I got denied unemployment. I got denied food stamps. And I applied like 4 or 5 times. Both my wife and I applied. My wife applied for disability. We got denied at all those. So we had nothing coming in. And so, and I live in Texas, so Texas is kind of weird in that like you have to apply for like 12 times for like disability. You have to apply like 12 times for like food stamps and unemployment. And I applied like 5, 6 times and I got denied every single time. And I'm like, all right, we just got to trust God and trust the process. And so yeah, we're still picking up the pieces of like $60,000 of medical debt and living expenses because we had no income. And so but yeah, we just had to pick ourselves up day by day, and like, all right, this is part of the process, I guess, and we just got to keep going and not give up.
So frustrating. God, you could walk across the border and get everything. You get housing, you can get food stamps, you could get medical, you could get everything. But here's a family who's worked here forever and can't get anything. It's beyond frustrating. But don't send me there. Faith. Faith. It's almost a four-letter word now. It's like it's so refreshing to hear you talk so openly about your faith, um, and your beliefs because everyone's trying to shut that down, and faith is like a four-letter word, but but for people who are going through it, I remember sitting in those chemo rooms with my wife and look at all these people. You really do need to have something to hold on to. Whether it's faith in God, faith in Christ, faith in Buddha, faith in whatever you want. But you really do need some time as the world's spinning, no insurance, no money coming in. I'm just nervous and scared for my wife. I mean, the treatments are brutal. Everything that comes with the cancer. I mean, you really gotta be able to reach out to something, don't you?
Yeah, for sure. Definitely. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, is that? I mean, you guys were pretty active before. I mean, you're a Spartan, man. You've done the Spartan. So anybody who can do a Spartan race is a pretty badass human. Um, but I mean, so was your wife in good shape? Was you where did the cancer come from? Where did just because breast cancer does what breast cancer wants to do, right?
Yeah, so we're still trying to figure that out. But I mean, my wife had a pretty stressful job. Um, but I mean, my wife was pretty active. She's a Zumba instructor, or she was at the time, and she was teaching like, 2, 3 classes a week. Um, but so prior to my wife's cancer diagnosis, my wife, so we were dealing with infertility for 10 years. And then she went in to get some tumors removed from, her uterus. And doctor's like, yeah, that will kind of help you guys with having children. So that when they removed the tumors from her uterus, they found out she had endometriosis. So I don't know if you're familiar with endometriosis, but it's basically like the lining of the uterus forms on the outside of the uterus, and there's just a lot of bleeding. It's just not a very good disease. I mean, it's like you have your period every single day, and she was anemic for a long time. And then it got to the point where in 2020, when COVID happened, like the world shut down, my wife had some abdominal pain, like where she could barely even move. And we did the telehealth because of COVID and everything. Doctor's like, oh, you need to do a COVID test. You probably have COVID, quarantine, things like that. We get the test results back. It was negative, and I was like, we need to go to the ER right now. And so we went to the ER, and this was like, so she did the test on Friday, but didn't get the results back until Monday because, this is the beginning of COVID. This was like April of 2020. And so we get test backs on Monday. She's still in a lot of pain over the weekend. We rush to the ER. Nurse comes out in all this PPP gown and saying, "Oh, you're the husband?" I'm like, "Yeah." And she's like, "You need to leave." And then they bring out a wheelchair, wheel her into the hospital. Uh, like, and this is from her perspective now, because I wasn't there. I wasn't able to be there. And so, she said 3 or 4 doctors looked at her. They're like, yeah, we don't know what's wrong with you. We see that you're in a lot of pain. And they just kept giving her like painkillers. And by 3 or 4 days after like 4 or 5 doctors have seen her, a fourth or fifth doctor comes in and wants to do a CT scan with contrasting dye. And then they found out that she had abdominal abscess, that was causing her abdominal pain. And so basically, they insert a tube, drain the fluid, then they send her home. I pick her back up after a week in the hospital or something like that. Um, and then she's like on one floor, either above or below the COVID ward. So, she's scared for her life getting COVID, but also this, tube coming out of her abdomen, draining all the fluid. And they send her home. They said, hey, we need to drain it for 6 to 8 weeks at home. And so I'm taking care of my wife at this point, draining it every 2 to 3 hours, making sure it's clean. 6 weeks go by, we go back to the hospital. They're like, oh, it's still draining fluids. Go back home, do it another 6 weeks until it's like completely empty. So I do that again for another 6 weeks. Come back to the hospital. They finally remove it, the tube and the little pouch. But then her doctor was like, your endometriosis may be spreading to other areas of, your organs and things like that. So the next surgery, this is like June of 2020 now, because 6 to 12 weeks has gone by now. And so they're saying, okay, we need to do a total hysterectomy to remove like the endometriosis. Doctor's like, yeah, this is pretty quick procedure. It's like an hour, hour and a half long. Um, and so we that day we go in. I'm thinking, it's going to take maybe 2 hours tops because they said an hour and a half. It'll be pretty quick because he's done many hysterectomies before. And so I'm in the waiting room at this point, and 8 hours go by, like 8+ hours, and I'm like, what the heck is going on? And I'm asking like the front receptionist, and they're like, we don't know, still in surgery. Then finally, after about like 8+ hours later, her doctor comes out and talks to me, like with he was pretty serious at this point, and he's like, yeah, we had some complications with the surgery. And I'm like, well, what kind of complications? And he's like, well, the endometriosis has spread to her, not only from her uterus, but to her ovaries, and then to her intestines, and then to her kidneys. So he's like, we had to call a general surgeon, we had to call a urologist, we had to call a gastroenterologist, and the urologist was at a different hospital, so we had to stitch her back up, wait for him, reopen her, and then had to put a metal stent in that connects the kidney to the bladder, that tube, because it severed the endometriosis, severed that tube. But that's why they had to call him back from another hospital. And I was like, and he's all saying this in like 2 minutes, and I'm like trying to process it. I'm like, so wait, why were like three other doctors in there? And he had to explain again to me, and then so she spent another 10 days recovering in the hospital, but at that point I was there. And so after the hysterectomy, my wife started having like hormone issues. So the doctor gave her like, because she went into pre-menopause, and so with menopause there's hot flashes and things like that. There's a lot of up and down. So the doctor gave her some sort of new drug to kind of help with hormones. So we don't know if that caused the cancer or if she got cancer based off of her stress or even from the food that she grew up eating. We don't know, but we don't want to go back and try to figure out the pieces because what's done is done, and let's just move forward from now and trying to prevent cancer from coming back again from either from her or from me. And so, kind of long story short, like that was kind of all that happened. So,
Yeah. Wow, that is wicked bad for her. Holy cow. I mean, so much of that is tragic. I mean, I know you guys were trying to have a baby,
yeah.
for a long time, and now obviously that's, the challenge of that. But that surgery is scary. I mean, when they open you up and then they find all this other stuff, you're like, holy shit, that's very scary. She went through a lot of trauma, but I don't know. There's a lot of question marks around this estrogen treatment and hormone therapy treatment that they give to women that all of a sudden somehow, well, breast cancer shows up. Well, how did that happen? That's so bizarre. Really? Well, maybe we should look back at what you're giving her and altering that type of stuff.
Yeah.
It's like all the things you find out about autism later or cancer later or vaccines later or all these different things later if you could get it out of them to admit what it is, right? um you just don't mess with the body, you just
Yeah.
don't mess with it, things could go sideways.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
Sorry
And
for your wife, man, stuff,
yeah. Yeah. I
and
mean,
both
so
of you.
it's been a crazy ride, but so when they did the biopsy on my wife's tumor, it was HER2 positive, but there was some estrogen related that could have maybe caused the cancer. So again, we don't know, but if the estrogen stuff that she was given after her hysterectomy, maybe it caused it. We don't know. We don't know.
Yeah,
So
it's tough to say, but the other thing that you mentioned, which I think is such a crucial part of people who get sick. When my wife had cancer, we just kind of kept it to ourselves. She didn't want a lot of people to know. She didn't really want the boys, to know. She's like, we'll get through this, yada yada. Um, but you talked about community, and how important it is to get your community involved because people want to help. But a lot of people that are suffering, we push people away. We don't want to inconvenience people or we're embarrassed or things like that. But you guys reached out, which was great, and you accepted, for even if you didn't reach out, the people came to you, you accepted the help and you accepted the community, which is such a valuable thing for people to remember.
yeah, yeah. Um, yeah, I mean, that was something that, I mean, both her and I, we kind of kept it to ourselves at first, but, and then we kind of shared it to like some close friends, things like that. But I mean, it got to the point where we're just like, this is way over our heads. Like, we need support, we need help somehow, some way. Like, you know, and we're just like, if you guys can help us in any way, if it's like, dropping off a meal or something, that would help us tremendously. So yeah, I mean, I believe community is huge. I believe that we're not supposed to walk this life or this world by ourselves. I mean, if you even look at Jesus, Jesus walked with 12 disciples, his closest friends, and um, it's I feel like so many of us are so prideful and like thinking that, oh, we can handle everything. But for me, I just had to be real and like, no, I can't handle all this. Like, I don't know when I'm going to find another job. I don't know if we can even like pay for medical treatments. And there was a lot of unknowns, but I just was like, hey, like this is me, this is what's going on with us, and just being real and raw with people, and like, hey, like this is what's going on. And if you want to shy away, I totally understand, because if you don't understand it, then you don't want nothing to do with it. But I'm gonna go to people that like, hey, like are gonna be willing to support us in any way. So yeah, community.
Yeah, that's just crucial. So, about the book, the mindset metamorphosis. Now, have you turned this into a coaching program? What are you doing with the book? How are you spreading the word? Helping people, like you say, physically, mentally, spiritually, about disciplines, daily actions, and stuff. Is this all through the book? I mean, have you taken it to like a coaching level? I was on your website. It looks like you're doing a lot with the book.
Yeah, I mean, right now, I'm just trying to spread the word on podcast and just, telling people about it. But I'm not doing a coaching program just yet. That's something that I'm thinking about or working on maybe in the future. But um, like for me, I've done, like you said, I've done Spartan races, but I've done martial arts all my life for 34 years now. And so martial arts, I've been teaching martial arts since I was like, I don't know, 12 or something like that. So
Mm.
um yeah, so I know what it's like to coach people and how to motivate people. So I don't know. The book may turn into a coaching program. It's just not there just yet. So, but I just want people to pick it up and read it and start taking some action for their lives. And I talk about, yeah, daily disciplines. I talk about morning routines. I talk about mindfulness in the book. Mindful breathing, mindful eating. I talk about meditation. All these things can reduce that stress. I talk about continuing to learn, like never stop learning. Something I learned early on in doing martial arts was my instructor told me every time you walk in that door, you're a white belt. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, can't you see I'm a black belt? But he meant that mindset of like, hey, don't have an ego, just be humble and be willing to learn constantly. And you don't have all the answers. And I do talk about building a community, whether it be in person or Facebook, or just finding, that community of like-minded people and learning from them. So there's a lot to unpack in the book. I talk about hydration. I talk about, like habit stacking, where if let's just say you're trying to get in shape or lose weight or something, and that's like your goal. You want to lose 10 pounds or something. So a habit stacking would be like, well, let's just say you have a habit of drinking coffee every single day, and you do it old school way. You don't use the K pods or anything like that. You use the actual filter and coffee grounds, and it takes 2 minutes to brew your coffee, let's just say, theoretically. Well, during that 2 minutes, instead of scrolling on your phone or just kind of waiting for it, and your goal is to lose weight, well, why don't you go do some push-ups or do some squats while you're waiting for that coffee to brew, instead of wasting your time looking at your social media or YouTube or whatever? Just be productive in that. And then even if you can only do one push-up, but if that's a habit, you drink coffee every single day, well, one push-up a day, that's 365 push-ups in a year. It starts adding up. And so, I talk about that, and that's that discipline, that's that consistency, so
Well, yeah, and that's 365 push-ups that you wouldn't have done had you
exactly.
not started just one a day. And it's like Zig Ziglar used to talk about, when he when the redhead said, you're getting fat, and so Zig's like, I'm not fat. She's like, yeah, you're getting fat. So he decided he was going to run, right? He was going to start running, and she goes, I don't want my old fat husband running up and down the street. So he goes, no, I'm going to start running. So she put the shoes right in the bed. So when he got out of bed, he had to land in the shoes, right? And then he said, well, I ran outside and I went to the mailbox and I came back home. The
Yeah,
next day I went to the neighbor's mailbox and I came back home. And the next day I went to the third mail, right? And it's just those little disciplines. And
yeah,
you could do that while your coffee's brewing. My coffee takes about 18 minutes for some stupid reason. But in that 18 minutes, there's a lot of things I could do while I'm waiting for my
exactly,
coffee to brew.
exactly.
Um, I love mindful eating.
Yeah,
A lot of people don't even think about it, how important, we're so used to in our culture slamming down a burrito or slamming something down or on your phone while you're eating or something like that. But really, you need mindful eating is a real thing. And
yes,
it's so good for your health, your digestion, but also just your mind. Other cultures sit together and they eat and they talk and they take their time. And you go to dinner in Italy and it's like a 2-hour event, right? They don't just wolf down a burrito. Um, I like all the stuff that you're doing. I like the habit stacking. But mindful eating is something I think people really need to get a grip on, don't you think?
yeah. Especially in today's culture and society, especially in the US, because yeah, like you said, we're on the go. We're eating a burrito or we're eating fast food while we're driving to work, while trying to put on our makeup, whatever, and being on a conference call at the same time, and same thing with like lunch, like we sit at our lunch while we're checking emails or something. And but if you think about like food, and if you take, I don't know, a giant burrito, let's just say you already given that example. It takes you 5 bites to wolf down a burrito. Well, you're taking those giant chunks of food and putting it into your digestive system where your stomach and it has to work harder to break down those foods. But if you actually like do mindful eating, chew 20 times and take your time, take 20 minutes to actually eat, it will actually give your digestive system a break so it doesn't have to break down those giant pieces of food and not have to work as hard. And if you take that time, you're because there's a delay between your mind and your gut about like 20 minutes or so, 20 30 minutes. And a lot of people just like keep eating and keep eating and keep eating, but the stomach is like it's full, but your brain is saying, "Oh, I'm not full. There's still food on my table that I need to eat." But if you give yourself that time, then your stomach will catch up to your brain saying, "Oh, I am full and I'm satisfied and I'm content." And then your digestive system doesn't have to work as hard. So yeah, I do talk about mindful eating and chew 20 times. Like actually like break down the food mechanically in your mouth before you have to actually swallow it and put it down to your
And
stomach.
and and actually put your fork down for a second,
Yeah.
right? You don't have to keep shoveling because, like you said, I mean, you keep eating, you're full. Now you're set yourself up for overeating and being uncomfortable because you didn't give time for the mechanisms to kick in and tell you that you're full. The other thing I love that you mentioned was dehydration, being hydrated. People think, "Oh, I got a headache, I'm going to take aspirin," or, "I got a cramp, I'm going to do this," or "I'm going to do that." It's like, dude, you're dehydrated. What have you had to drink today besides Coke and coffee, or something stupid? Have you had any just water? I
Yeah.
mean, right? It's like other symptoms that you're trying to cure could be cured if you just drink enough water, stay hydrated.
Yeah. Yeah, and so I'm also a licensed massage therapist, and when I went to school, we talked about the importance of hydration. And a lot of times headaches and just like tension headaches, things like that, it's about 80% dehydration. And I talk about in my book about what is it like 1% dehydration actually does to the brain. It makes your brain, it makes it foggy, it makes you help like it doesn't make you think straight. And like dehydration is no joke, especially if you're out doing like, physical activity outside, out in the heat. And most people, when they stop sweating, then it's like you're really too late. It's like you're almost at heat exhaustion and then almost at heat stroke. And so yeah, hydration is important. I would say for me, my rule of thumb is drink half your body weight in ounces. So let's say if you weigh 100 pounds, well, drink 50 ounces a day of water. And most people don't even drink 8 ounces, eight glasses a day, And so I truly believe hydration is important. I mean, 70% of our body is made up of water, and that goes to all our organs and all our blood flow. And so, yeah, hydration is super important.
It's funny too, people who think like it's winter, so it's cold, so I'm not going to sweat, don't realize that the
The air is
cold will
drier.
dehydrate faster than a desert will, because the cold is so frickin' dry. People don't get that. They don't associate the two. The other thing that you touched on is stress. So you talk about helping people mentally. And I honestly don't think that there's a bigger killer in our world than stress right now. And I think people just kind of overlook it, or they take a Xanax, or they drink a couple beers, or they do thing that isn't removing the stress. It's just covering the stress up, and it's still there. And I know that the sicknesses that I've suffered recently were all stress related. So, what do you talk about in your book about how we can kind of work through the stress of just being alive today?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, gratitude is a big one. We get have
Gratitude.
gratitude. I talk about movement. There's so many scientific research with exercise and reducing stress and reducing that cortisol levels. I mean, when you exercise, it brings up those quote unquote happy hormones, and it just makes you feel good. So I truly believe some sort of movement or exercise. It doesn't have to be like intense. Just go outside for a walk, get some sunlight. Sun is great for vitamin D. It's great for reducing inflammation. It's great just overall mentally. But add some walking, add some steps to it, and spend some time in nature. So you're getting three things in one, and everybody could walk outside. It's just, are you willing to do it? Like, just go
Yeah.
outside. Like, so many of us are on the computer, checking social media, and always comparing ourselves to so and so. They have a better life or whatever. Like, who cares? Like, just go outside, shut down all electronics. I talk about sleep habits as well. If we're seeing so much TV or laptops or screens, we get that blue light, and then we think, oh, it's daylight, so our bodies want to stay up longer. And if you look at before electricity was invented, people went to sleep when it got dark and got up when the sun came up. But now with technology, it's like, oh, we don't know what day or time it is anymore. And we're like, oh, it's 11 o'clock p.m., but oh, I'm still wired because I'm looking at my screen all day. And so, a habit is to an hour before bed, shut down all electronics, read a book, um, talk to your spouse, just shut down everything and have that winding down time. And that'll kind of help. That will help with reducing stress. That will help get better sleep. Like sleep is such a good, important thing. We'll sleep a third of our lives. And so when we don't get sleep, we don't have that cognitive abilities. Even daylight savings. Um, there's more heart attacks, more wrecks after daylight savings time. And that's just only an hour difference. Think of what 2, 3 hours a night you're not getting any sleep. How much that's going to add to your stress. And I talk about meditation. Just whether you stand up, sit down, lay down, you can do it on walking. Just meditate, just on some good things. Meditate on, like for me, I meditate on God's word because the Bible says meditate on his law day and night. So I meditate. That's one thing I do is I meditate on that. But you could meditate on different things. I talk about breathing. Breathing is one of those things that like mindful breathing. Breathing is one of those things that you have absolute control of, or you have no control of because it's an automatic response. But when we're stressed, a lot of times we start breathing shallower and faster. But if we just like I talk about box breathing, where you breathe in for four counts. So you go 1, 2, 3, 4, and you breathe in. Then you do breathe out for four. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then that will calm down your nervous system because now you're actually mindful of your breathing. Where are you breathing from your lungs or are you breathing from the actual diaphragm? And you get more air. What is it like? You go 30 seconds, you can't live 30 seconds without air. So our bodies need oxygen. And if we get that deeper oxygen to our body system, like we just feel so much better. And we almost like it's like we feel calmer. So yeah, there's a lot of different techniques in there to kind of de-stress. And these are all techniques that I was doing while my wife was going through cancer because I'm like, I needed something to help me out. So
Yeah,
I
you
was
were going through major stress, and that messes up your cortisol. It messes up your thyroid. I mean, stress just can start destroying all your body parts, right? And yeah, we take breathing for granted. We're like, well, I breathe all day. It's like, yeah, but do you purposely breathe? Do you get
right.
enough breath? Do you take it deep into your lungs? Are you using your whole lung capacity? Are the lungs starting to atrophy because you're just not using them to the capacity, that they need? I getting outside, after dinner, just go walk down the street. You don't got to run a marathon, but just get up. Don't go from the dinner table to the couch and put something on and just sit there, right? Just after dinner, go walk and I'm a big believer in the grounding. I like to golf barefoot. People pick on me because I golf barefoot, but
So
I
good
mean,
for you.
you spend 4 hours walking around on grass, which we get no time to walk around on
Exactly.
grass, right? I mean, I live in a desert. There's not even really, pretty much a golf course is the only place we have grass. And it just feels so good on the feet. I just, being outside, getting with the earth, breathing a little bit. There's so many easy things we could do if we're mindful of it, right? And I think that's why the title. You're trying to get people to be mindful about making these little changes that make such a difference.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree with grounding. That's something that we do too. We actually have a grounding mat. But I do step outside, like just put my feet in the ground. Like it just there's something about it just to connect with the earth and with the ground and there are studies that reduces inflammation, reduces stress and but yeah, I mean grounding is definitely great.
It's funny when you ask people too, you say, when is the last time you walked around for 15, 20 minutes, a half hour on grass, took your shoes off? And people will go, oh, well, shit, I don't know. I
Yeah.
don't remember the last time.
When I was a
I
kid.
get home and take my shoes off and walk around in my socks on my carpet, which is full of chemicals and garbage. But really, I mean, people, when they think about it, they go, I can't remember the last time I just walked barefoot on grass. If you live by the beach, if you're fortunate enough to live by the beach, you can walk on the sand or walk in the water. There's a lot of benefit to that too. So, but yeah, I love what you're doing with the book. I love what you're covering there. I mean, your story's wicked. But so many people are going through that. And that's why I loved, one of the things you said was gratitude, and it's so easy to be a victim nowadays. We all wear the victim. It's almost like people are congratulate you when you're a victim. It's like, oh, you're right, you're a victim, and be a victim. It's not a way to live. But gratitude and victimhood, they can't exist together, right? You can't pretend you're a victim, play victim, and be over the top grateful and giving at the same time, right? They just don't work together.
No, doesn't doesn't.
Yeah. You guys chose gratitude and you chose reframing.
Yeah.
Um, and that's a tough thing to do, buddy. That when you're in that and when you're in the weeds like that, it's really tough to step back and go, all right, well, we just need to think about this in a different way, right? That's not an easy thing to do.
It's not. It's not. But that was a choice that we made, though. That was that action that we took. And so, because for us, we're like, man, people that are in victimhood, they don't ever like nothing ever gets accomplished. You just want people to do stuff for you, and like, yeah, it's great to have that community, but sometimes like you have to take it up on your own to like get up and go read that book or get up and go outside and walk. And no one's going to do that for you. So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, you're awesome, buddy. I'm so glad that your wife is NED. I know she's going to come all the way through it. Her body has been through a lot. Oh my gosh, they've really worked her over, and you too. I mean, there's no maybe you weren't opened up and have a bunch of different surgeons and go through the chemo and stuff like that, but the level of stress that your body went through is unbearable. People have no idea what it's like to be a caregiver, what it's like to, have be a caregiver and get laid off and then just looking for every penny. I mean, it's like that amount of stress. I mean, I'm surprised you didn't get sick too, because I mean, that's how I got sick. It's just
Right.
like, honestly, at some point you break down, but I lied earlier, DK. I said I only had one question, but I actually have two.
Oh,
I give
okay.
you the first question, but I don't give anybody the second question. But because the second question before we get out of here, the last thought is, DK, is there something that you'd like to share with us, that you learned from all this, or just from your book, or just something that's always meant something? Maybe something your dad used to always say or something. But is there something that you'd like to leave us with, a thought that means something to you before we get out of here?
Ooh. Um, well, I guess there's a couple things, but never stop learning, never stop growing, and don't lose hope, don't give up. But so for me, there's a quote that I kind of came up myself with is it says, feed your mind, fuel your actions, find your fire. If you do those three things, then you're gonna have a great life.
So, what are the three things again?
So feed your mind. So that's like
Feed
reading
your
books
mind.
or constantly learning.
Yeah,
Fuel your actions. So take that action and then go find your fire.
I love that. That must be in the book.
It is in the book, but it's on my website as well. It's
I
like
love
a
that.
little logo. So, but if
Perfect.
people do want to find me, you can go to my website, dkkang.com. And if you sign up for my newsletter, if you subscribe to it, I'm actually giving the first chapter away for my Mindset Metamorphosis as a free download. And my newsletters are basically my story and my life lessons that I got from that, whatever it was, whether it be my wife's cancer diagnosis or job loss or whatever it is. I'm just trying to share lessons and to help people be better. And if you want to purchase my book after reading the first chapter, it's on Amazon. And then it's on Audible, Kindle, and paperback. And then the Kimchi
Who
Connection.
read it? Who read it?
Who
Did
read
you
what?
read it on Audible? Did you read the book for Audible?
What do you mean? Did I read the book?
But you have to listen to the
Oh,
book.
no. Oh,
So
yeah.
who did the voiceover for the
Narrated
book?
it. I just had some professional narrate it. I didn't actually narrate it myself because I don't have the tools and software to do the narrating and all that.
Hmm.
So yeah, I just had someone to narrate it. But then my the Kimchi Connection cookbook that's on Amazon as well, and that's only on Kindle and paperback. There's no Audible because it's a cookbook. So you know.
Well, I love it. I was going to ask you that, so I'm going to have you go over it one more time. But real quick, everybody, we just had DK Kang. That's Kang. He is the author of Mindset Metamorphosis. It's got a great story, something we all can relate to. We've all had some aspects of this pain. And DK, I really appreciate you sharing that. So please, one more time, just in case people weren't ready, how do we find you? How do we find the book? And what else is going on for DK?
Yeah, people can find me at my website at DK Kang. So it's dkkang.com. And then if you subscribe to my newsletter, I'm giving away the first chapter away for my mindset book as a free download. and then people can find my books on Amazon. And what's next for me is I am writing a book about gratitude, like just strictly all about gratitude. So,
I
yeah.
love it. Yeah, we'll pick that one up too. So, are you on the other social? Are you on Facebook? Are you on LinkedIn? You on any of that stuff we should look for?
Yeah, so I'm on social media. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, X, Substack.
You're
Uh,
on all of
I'm on all of them,
them.
but the way, if you want to really reach me, is just through my email. Social media, I just post on it. I don't really check it. So my email is dk@dkkang.com. And I usually typically respond in about 2 to 3 days. But social media, if you message me on there, you won't hear me from like 5 years probably.
You're busy. You got other stuff to do. You can't sit there scrolling. So, hey, DK, you are wonderful. I'm so grateful that you came on and joined me. I'm so grateful that your wife is feeling better. I'm glad that you made it through. I know there's still some struggles coming up. So let's make that book a bestseller. Let's
Yeah.
make the cookbook, the kimchi cookbook, right? Is that what it's called? Kimchi cookbook.
The Kimchi Connection Cookbook.
The kimchi connection book. I'm going to pick that up because we got to do more with the kimchi and then the upcoming gratitude book. So I wish you nothing but the best, my friend. I'm really grateful that you came on.
Yeah, I'm grateful to be here. Been a great
All
host.
right, guys. Look for DK. Look for the book, The Mindset Metamorphosis. Look for the cookbook. And we'll see you guys next time. Thanks, everybody. See ya. Thanks again for joining us on another episode of What If You Could podcast. Please subscribe, like, share, and give us any feedback. We'd love to hear it. And remember, if you can dream it, you can do it. See you next time.